Hey, what's going on, guys? So I'm going to be doing the question and answer that I posted on Instagram a few days ago. So if you're not following me on Instagram yet, make sure you do. It's at Bear Performance Nutrition. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to cover all the questions here because there are like 85 questions or something like that. Loving the feedback I'm getting from you guys. But I'll cover the ones that probably pertain to a lot of people. And if I don't cover your question, all you got to do is shoot me an email to nick@bearperformancenutrition.com and I'll answer anything you guys send me. Just give me a few days because I've been quite busy lately between the work in the Army, the company, and the YouTube channel, and of course training. So getting right into it, and as I'm going over these questions, I'm going to overlay some training footage from yesterday, which was a squat and deadlift workout. So number one, what would you do if you weren't in Ranger School? And I'm assuming you meant I didn't go to Ranger School. And how do you come up with such fantastic recipes? So if I wouldn't have gone to Ranger School, I'd probably be in the same position I'm in right now. Ranger School isn't something I had to do to be in the Army. It's just that infantry officers are encouraged, highly encouraged to go to Ranger School. So when I was doing my basic course for the infantry officers course, Ranger School was next, and I just went to it and I passed. So, you know, you don't need a Ranger tab to be an infantry lieutenant or platoon leader, but it does help in certain units. And how do I come up with my favorite recipes? That's a very common question you guys ask me. So a lot of it I'll reference maybe on Instagram on other people's posts, but majority of the time, to tell you the truth, I walk up and down the grocery store aisles, and I've talked about this before. Just walking down, looking at different foods and just thinking of different recipes. And a lot of the foods I kind of just make on the fly and no idea how they're going to turn out, and it's, majority of the time it's on film. So you guys see like firsthand recipes I'm making before I ever make it, you know, before on film. Favorite cheat meal and favorite macro friendly meal. I gotta say, favorite cheat meal is either stromboli, love stromboli, homemade stromboli, or just the basic cheeseburgers and fries, and probably sweet potato fries. But that is my favorite macro friendly meal. Man, that's a tough one because a lot of the meals I do make are macro friendly because my macros are so high. But I gotta say, my go-to lately that fits in my macros really easy is overnight oats, using that sugar-free, fat-free Jello mix. What do you want your total to be on bench, squat, and deadlift at your next powerlifting meet? So right now I'm thinking a 1600. So I'm thinking like somewhere in the 400s for bench, 600s in deadlift, and 500-ish and up in the squat. So that's what I'm looking for. I really don't know where I'm going to compete next. I would love to compete at some point in the near future, just to really see, you know, how I've progressed compared to my last competition. But my numbers keep going up, and I'm just gonna keep riding the gains, you know. Is Iifym better for dieting than eating clean? I'm wondering if bad foods hurt your health in the long term, if your physique just looks good. So, guys, the thing with Iifym or flexible dieting, it is a lifestyle. It's not meant to fit all these bad foods or unhealthy, you know, processed foods in your diet every single meal. It's just a way to eat the things you enjoy occasionally. People that are clean eating might still be tracking their macros, and to me that's kind of still flexible dieting because you're fitting in foods being flexible with your diet. Just because you don't eat Pop-Tarts once a day doesn't mean you're not a flexible dieter. Flexible dieting isn't eating as much junk as you can. It's just being able to if you really want to, or it's helping you fit into social situations better. That's, you know, revolved around food. What is the point of the creatine load, and should I do one? So there's been a lot of studies on whether you need a creatine load and if you don't need to. The thing is, if you take, say, I don't remember what it is, I think 20 grams of creatine a day for like 6 days, it's gonna saturate your muscles with creatine faster than if you would take, say, 5 grams of creatine per day. So both of them are gonna saturate the muscle with creatine. It's a little faster than the other. Is creatine loading necessary? Absolutely not. I never recommend it to anyone, and I think it's a huge way for supplement companies to sell more product. You run through that bottle faster. So I sell a creatine product, and I'm telling you, don't load or bulk your creatine powder in the beginning. How do you stay so motivated, especially after long shifts of work? You make no excuses. How do you push through even when you're tired? So I kind of referenced this in the video I talked about, I think my last video, where it was finding balance in your life between working out, work, and your personal life. And, you know, if there's things you love in life, you're going to do really whatever it takes to make it happen. And I love working out, I love running BPN, I love my job in the Army. So I got a really backwards plan and set my day up for success by making like time hacks. It's just so I can, do the things I want to do before I have to go to bed. How do I stay so motivated to do it? It's just what I love to do. If you have something that you truly love doing, it's not really motivation, it's just you're doing what makes you happy. And this is really what makes me happy. Alright, something I've been getting a lot lately. Would you consider making a recipe book soon? A lot of delicious recipes, I would pay for it. So, since you guys have been asking so much, I think I'm going to start putting all my recipes and collecting them and putting them in a Word document, eventually making a book out of it. And I don't know if I'm going to sell it right now. If I do, it would be like for $5, just because it's taking time for me to put together. But I would love to just give it to you guys for free because, why charge you for that if I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel anyway? So I will start collecting my recipes just so that you guys can have them when they're all done. What's your biggest fear and the best moment in your life? Alright, best moment in my life, graduating Ranger School. My biggest fear at the moment, really couldn't even tell you. There's nothing I'm really scared of right now. Life has been pretty good. It's been in a positive correlation, and I'm really happy with where I'm at in my life. So I'm really not afraid of anything. I think everyone's a little afraid to fail at some points in their life, and of the uncertainty. When I get out of the Army, what I'm going to do after that. Maybe that's a fear, but at this point, I don't really think there's a pinpointed fear that I'm looking at. How aggressive did you go with your first week of reverse dieting? So when I was dieting for my bodybuilding competition, my macros at the lowest were around 45 grams of fat, 150 grams of carbs, and 250 grams of protein. And I felt like junk those last couple weeks. Your hormones get out of whack. When you're that lean for a period of time, you're not going to feel like $100 or $1 million. You're going to start feeling like crap. So when I was done dieting for my show, I knew I needed to jump up calories pretty high at first just to get out of that slump. So fats went up to I think 70, carbs went up to 300, protein stayed at, I think I dropped it to 225, just because I know I needed more fat in my diet to regulate my hormones again, and I just needed more carbs. So I made a pretty big jump initially, and then after that it was like 5 grams of fat at a time when I stopped gaining weight, and carbs probably intervals of 25 or 50. So to get to the macros I'm at right now, it took me a few months, but initially I didn't need that big jump up just to start feeling normal again. This was my favorite question. How many Skittles can you fit in your mouth at one time? And I think I will do this in a video at a later time. I was afraid to do it in this one because I was about to buy the Skittles and I was afraid I was going to choke. So I didn't buy them, but maybe I'll do this in another video. Training for muscle growth or fat loss? I personally don't think you train muscle groups in the gym for fat loss. You train for muscle growth or muscle development. Fat loss is done in the kitchen or in cardio. So it's energy expended needs to be higher than energy intake. And I think that's all done in the kitchen. You don't really train or lift weights for fat loss. What are your thoughts on long distance relationships, and are you single? Do you feel guilty on days you eat really bad, especially on a cut or a reverse diet? So I never have a full day of bad eating. I might have a cheat meal here and there, but I don't crave bad foods or processed foods, unhealthy foods that I typically won't eat on a normal day all the time. And if I have it in one meal, it's kind of out of my system and I'm not craving it anymore. So I don't really have days where I eat really bad. But you should never feel guilty because of food. That just causes bad problems. Say you have a day where healthy food sources weren't available and you had to eat a bunch of junk just because you were hungry. The next day just get back on your diet and don't even look back at that day. You had to do what you had to do because you were hungry. So don't even worry about it. How would you ever not count macros, and how would you transition out of that? So I eat pretty much the same thing every day. So if I didn't want to track macros, I could still eat and generally know what my intake was on a daily basis. But what I did before I started tracking macros is I still ate like a bro. I ate clean, but I had like 5 meals a day. And I thought I knew what my macros I wanted to be, even though I wasn't tracking macros. So in each meal, I said I would try to eat 15 grams of fat, 60 grams of carbs, and 50 grams of protein. So I wouldn't weigh anything out. I would just be like, all right, well, let's see, 60 grams of carbs. I would do a cup of rice and a serving of beans. And that would be about 60 grams of carbs. And I throw in a tablespoon of olive oil and chicken breast the size of my fist. And I wasn't tracking macros, but had a ballpark idea of what the numbers were each meal and then throughout the day. What is your stance on lifting straps and belts? So straps I am all for unless you're a powerlifter. So I think if you're training for powerlifting, using straps is kind of weird because you don't really want to train the way you're not going to compete. And that's how I feel. I use straps for everything but deadlifts pretty much. All my back exercises. Now wearing a belt, I am pro belt. I'm all about using a belt because it helps you brace that abdominal area, keeping a straight back, and on say squats, it prevents you from having lumbar flexion. And Lane Norton recently did a video on accessories that you can use while squatting, and using a belt was on one of his accessories that he uses and highly recommends. What was your favorite and your least favorite part of prep when you did your last show? Least favorite, the feelings you had when you got really low into poverty macros, your body fat was super low, and you were just tired all the time. My favorite part was seeing the progress. So it was literally crazy. Like I would do, when I was like three weeks out up until the show, I would do a set of hanging leg raises for abs and veins all over my stomach. So seeing your body transition from 16 weeks out plus to the day of the show is just amazing and really motivating. How difficult was Ranger School? So Ranger School was tough because you're always hungry, you're always tired, and you're put in positions where you're trying to lead people who are also really hungry and really tired and just don't want to work. And the fact that I was there for 4 months, I recycled 2 phases, one of those phases being a 6-week holdover, just made it that much harder mentally. So Ranger School was really tough, but I think it's one of the best schools that you can go to in the Army, and that is a great leadership school and tactics school. Did you play sports in high school, and if so, what? And were you good? I played baseball all through high school. I played football in middle school. I did ice hockey in middle school and high school. And one random year I ran cross country in high school. I was a bigger guy for cross country. I did pretty good. Baseball, I was always pretty good. I played varsity. Hockey, I was pretty good. Played varsity. Football, I was never that good at football. My brother is really, really good at sports. He's good at baseball. He still plays baseball in college right now, and he was really good at football. So he was my younger brother too. So he kind of overpowered me in the high school sports arena. And everyone knew my brother playing sports, and no one really knew of me. How do you approach a PR during training? What should you change? Change absolutely nothing. You should be deadlifting or attempting to deadlift your warm-up sets the same as you're going to do your PR attempt. Because if you try to change something, that's when you most of the time are going to get hurt, or you're not going to pull that weight. Because when you're going for bigger weights, it's all muscle memory. It's all technique. And getting the setup properly and pulling the same way will help you pull bigger weights. It's not psyching yourself up. It's not yanking the bar like I used to do. It's just preparing yourself, calming down, being psyched up internally, but you got to know what you got to do to pull that weight or squat or bench, whatever that is. Technique is so key in hitting PRs. How can a girl get more muscle? Lift heavy. I mean, you see it on Instagram and YouTube and stuff all the time. Girls that are lifting heavier and utilizing proper training techniques and programming are getting big. You're not going to get super jacked as a female because you don't have testosterone or enough to build massive muscles. But you'll get toned, you'll put on some muscle, but you got to lift heavy. Did you do ROTC or OCS? I was an ROTC cadet before I commissioned, and did my training change preparing for Ranger School. I ran a lot more, so I'd say 3 or 4 times a week I did a 3-mile course that was all hills, which sucked, but got me in really good shape. So really focusing on cardio, a lot more pull-ups. I didn't go as heavy because I wasn't really worried about strength, but more muscle endurance and just staying fit, and I didn't want to get hurt. I didn't go super heavy because I did not want to get hurt prior to going to Ranger School. Top 3 Pop-Tarts in order. Easy. PB&J, pumpkin pie, and brown sugar cinnamon. What has been my favorite IIFYM creation? By far, my baked French toast. I came up with that on my own, and I know you guys love it because you guys tag me on Instagram and stuff all the time. By far the best idea I've ever had. Will you be adding any more supplements to your line soon? Protein powder, for example. A lot of people ask that question. So here's the thing with coming out with new supplements for me. Right now, my company, in my opinion, is not big enough to come out with a protein powder, because coming out with a quality protein powder is pretty expensive per unit compared to other supplements. And if I'm going to come out with a good protein powder, it's going to be quality. I'm going to put a lot of time and research and develop into the flavor profiles. So right now, I don't think I'm ready to produce a protein powder on the scale I want to. Once the company grows, absolutely. But I think there's a few companies right now that really own the protein powder industry. MTS, Dymatize, Optimum Nutrition. And getting into that market with them is kind of tough. So, there's no way really to separate yourself in protein powders other than flavors. So maybe in the future, but not right now. How does a water cut work? I've heard of people dropping crazy amounts of water from it to make weight for meats and such. Alright, so dropping water for meats, like competition, body or powerlifting competitions, and like wrestlers do this. It is a effective way to lose weight, but it is not the right way to lose weight because you're becoming dehydrated, you'll become weak. You got to lose weight the right way. And when I came into my powerlifting meet the last time, I showed up that day and I was 3 pounds heavier than I needed to be. So I just did not prepare myself because I picked up that show way too late. So I did cut water. I threw a hood on, I threw sweatpants on, got on the treadmill, got on the bike. I dropped the weight, but I felt like crap. Now, cutting water for a bodybuilding show, you shouldn't cut water. I didn't cut any water my last show because the muscles hold a lot of water in them. If you don't hydrate your muscles, they're going to look smaller. They're going to look, they call it stringy. So that kind of goes into something else I want to talk about. Creatine. Someone asked if you should stop taking creatine before a show, and if I recommend creatine to people. I recommend creatine to everyone that's working out, whether you're male or female. Some people respond to creatine more than others. That was weird. 5 grams a day, every day, doesn't matter when you take it. I recommend creatine to everyone up until the day of their show. You don't have to cut creatine. What is the most important quality of a leader? I really like this question and I didn't want to forget to answer this one. I think one of the most important qualities, and now this is just something I'm referencing that I'm experiencing right now in my job, is utilizing delegation correctly. So as a leader, you got a lot going on and you got a lot to handle. Being able to delegate tasks to people, subordinate leaders under you, is something you need to do. You cannot micromanage people, and you need to trust people to get the job done. This does one of two things, or one of multiple things, but it frees you up to focus on more important things most of the time, and it, for 2, develops subordinate or junior leaders. So you give them a task, you give them the standard, and then you evaluate them based on how they do. So being able to delegate all the tasks that you have to do, I think is a really important aspect to be a leader, and just not to micromanage your subordinate leaders or the people that work for you. I keep wanting to say soldiers, and I'm trying to make it a civilian term. So the last question I'm going to touch on. Top 3 favorite foods. I was thinking about this all day, and I'm going to have to say, believe it or not, overnight oats. I know it's weird, but overnight oats are like my go-to, and I just absolutely could eat it every day for every meal. Number 2, now these are based off restaurants that I've been going to lately. Turkey burger on a grilled bun with lettuce, tomato, sweet potato fries, and a little cup of ranch to dip your sweet potato fries in. Homemade ranch. And my 3rd favorite food is chicken and waffles. It's gotta be deep fried chicken. It's gotta be covered in butter, real maple syrup, and Cholula hot sauce. So those are my 3 favorite foods. Unfortunately, I couldn't touch on all of these questions because there were like 85. Maybe I'll do a video at another point covering the rest of them. Hope you guys enjoyed this type of video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.